We're looking for trading opportunities in the market's best momentum companies. And we look for the common factor that all these market leaders share before they turn into the strongest performers. That's entering what we call the Launchpad. We've got a list of the 30 best momentum companies and the 30 top Launchpad companies. Gary Glover has been through both lists and he's here to explain the charts, the setups and similarities that he looks for when he's trading these leaders. Good morning, Gary. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Chris. I'm good.
So this week, we've definitely had the market breakout. We've got it sitting up near highs, a bit of a pullback today on Friday. So there's no doubt some momentum companies and momentum leaders in there. As you overlook these lists and the market as a whole, what are you seeing happening right here from that momentum and market leader perspective?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's some great lessons in the quality momentum stocks there. Still, yeah, some of those in there. There's probably couple of those starting to show a few distribution days in there as well. So probably just a little bit of selling coming in some of those leading names. In the Launchpad there's quite a few stocks in there as well. There's probably not too many trades in there that I could see there, but definitely seen some stocks explode out of there off sort of some probably good lows and some pretty heavy volume. So I got added about 7 of those in the Launchpad there to my watch list because I thought, oh, that's like a bounce sort of from key areas, big volume, big bursts, and then now we just want to see them come back and consolidate, give us a low risk sort of entry point, something, some tight price action there. And yeah, but some good signs in some of those stocks. And that's probably some of that rotation that we're seeing in the market there. But number 2 on the list was ACW there, which is sort of something that we've talked about the stock exploding here. This is the dementia one here. So really, Chris, they got the trial results out in, I think, first part of August. So market's getting excited about what might be coming here. So just always wary of seeing stocks run hard up into in results. So we prefer to see the result and then gap up and run rather than run really, really hard. Result. Yeah. Because I think you almost price for perfection, and it's got to be a belter. Otherwise, going to be disappointment. So just be wary of that. Triple T, they're a pretty good move here. I thought there was one heavy selling day there last time. I sort of suggest you probably get a watch for that. Just make sure we don't see any follow up there. I think we saw a couple good volume days on the bounce there, which is a good sign. Then 3 tight days, pretty low volume. So even though it's getting a little wider, still sort of stay within the range there. So you still call that maybe just within our tight parameters. And then it's kicked again here. So, so you just got to watch the volume here too. Again, we had this one volume heavy day here. Just whether we see any follow up here. But has had a few drives here now. So there are some risk. Just seeing there, like obviously Titanic is in that, sort of metal space, but obviously it's got, military,
defense,
defense. So, we saw Dronesheild during the week. That's had a massive, drop there, so this, it's a good lesson there, Dronesheild, really, because, it's been obviously a hot segment, but then, that eventually you sort of tip over there. This thing is definitely, market cap was getting pretty out of control. But there's no reason why you don't really exit these things until they sort of break here. And that's what we often talk about, maybe the 10 and the 20 day moving average as a bit of a marker there. And for the stock sort of really screaming, this sort of stock here, once it starts getting vertical here, then you probably want to be at least the 10 day would be your, be the worst case scenario. You just got to be careful too when they do roll off here. Like I saw this stock fell pretty hard, and I saw a lot of people tweeting they were buying this break, Chris. When you're buying that, that this is a momentum stock here, so it has, if you read any Minervini's books, they talk about these momentum movers have these big moves. They can go up 100, 200, 600%, but when they're done, we're talking about, 50% will have the 80%, so there's the 50-80 rule there. So 80% of stocks will have a 50% fall at least. And then sort of like there'll be up to 50 might have like that 70 to 80% drop as well. So you go back in history and look at, even stocks like Coca-Cola, McDonald's, when they first came on there, I think Coca-Cola and McDonald's both had 70% corrections after they got hot, and come back here. So best companies, they all still can come back here. So you don't want to be bought after a big one-day drop here. That's like an overbalance of the trend as well. So we should never be buying that overbalance there. So, so pretty heavy selling there, pretty big volume there. That's not a day to be following, trying to pick that low there, Chris, So what McLaren basically talked about, if you actually look at this base there, this sort of building, he'd draw a trend line across here, second trend line through here. I think I did actually have to draw that. I think there was like a third trend line here and then a fourth trend line. So what McLaren said was basically that once you get a blow off, once you get, 1, 2, 3, 4, like an extension or blow off trend, it will come back to where the last acceleration point, basically something like 95%. Even to the point where he said, look, I think it's 95%, but he says, I've never seen one not come back. So he probably is one out there, but he couldn't find one. But so that sort of indicates here, then that's really the last acceleration point here is probably this low here. If you draw the trend line up, maybe they've got this point here as one last point as well. So look, this tells us at least you're going to come back to 140. More than likely, this will come back to 90 cents eventually after these moves. That's the thing about those moves. So that was sort of his theory. But we know that, we're looking for at least a 50% correction. So 270 down to 135 here. There's our sort of 140 at least there. So that's sort of that sort of fits the sort of textbook sort of correction in terms of sort of scale and size of these momentum moves. So it's all good to trade these things here. So I know sort of a couple of years, one guy who's been trading this, been calling it, but got caught at the top here. But as long as you get a stopping place, it doesn't really matter. So so it's okay. It's obviously good that he's caught a lot of these moves. He'd been long the whole time here, so that's fantastic. Everyone was getting upset because he was, got caught at the top here. But as long as he's got a stop here, if he's made 5 or 6, if he's had 5 or 6 winners here and only one loser, and the loser's contained, well, that's fine. That's good trading the way I look at it. So you just can't sort of stay in these things. You better have your risk management places. This is why you must have a stop in place when you're trading some of these high momentum moves, particularly when they're getting this far away from their kind of moving averages and getting that extended there. So I think that's a really important lesson there. So Triple T, just I say like that Dronesheild there does tell us that maybe that sector is getting a little hot for us. So we just got to be careful with other names in that sector because they do tend to sort of follow each other. That everyone follows the leader up, and they'll follow the leader back down again as well. So just keep that in mind. FBR was on the list there, so that's the fast brick. So again, they've just, a bit like the ACW, all they've done is ship over one of their robots over the US, for the big Allison dollar thing there. So they'll do some trials over there. So the market's got excited by that, but good volume here. It's starting to have a bit of a pullback here, Chris, but good sign of this so far. We've had that, I think, the one day of selling here and had a little bit of a bounce day, a bit of an inside day. These 2 days here so far, the volume's a bit lighter here. So we might get a little congestion in there. So definitely one to be watching there. And that might be it. Still a lot of shares on issue. Got a lot of overhead losers that will probably be selling into some of the heat here. But definitely an interesting stock here that could capture the attention and some sort of strong names actually moved on to that register there recently as well.
This one you've mentioned for a few weeks. It's been on the list for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, no, it's been popping up there. It's one stock that I've been on my radar for years actually, just because I thought it was pretty exciting. But it's that I remember watching those videos back in 2017, 7 years ago. So it can take a long time for these new technologies to sort of get adopted and get approved, and longer than you think all the time. So a bit like the biotechs as well. That's the risk with the biotech. Sometimes it can take a while. That's why you want to sort of start to see a few sales come through there. SKS, this has been one of the strong names there, Chris. Had that really nice little BCP sort of cup and handle it, broke out, and just had pretty solid there. Hasn't, all the consolidations have just been pretty tight. There's no real sort of selling here. So a little bit of movement here just in the last move there, a bit more volatility. So we're losing as Catalan is sort of, getting a little looser, so tight action there, tights for winners, and then start getting a bit looser there, that's looser to lose. So just getting a bit riskier here as the price action's getting a little looser. So just keep that in mind as well. Had a pretty awesome run there. EZZ, I mean, this one hasn't had too many pullbacks here, Chris. It's been pretty solid here, really. This life sciences group, obviously, been a few biotech sort of running here recently, but it's been no sort of like ABC or no three-way pullbacks, and it's just been a little, it's really only been like it's that 1-2 days down here. It's 1, 2, 3 days here, maybe a 1, 2, 3 inside days here. So it's done nothing more than like a 3-day pullback here so far, the whole move here. So that's pretty firm here. So look, yes, getting extended here at the moment, but yeah, for me, probably just watch those stocks. Rather, probably I think a lot of them are pretty extended here, so you want to sort of see them sort of tighten up again. CYL, geez, another big move there. Obviously, we'll talk about that little cup and handle there, the little David Ryan sort of tight price action under the high. Still continuing to run there. Again, looking a little extended there. Volume sort of starting to taper off as well. So you can see at the end here, the volume sort of is getting lighter and lighter and lighter and lighter. So it's sort of, that does tell you a little, what they call a little shark pattern there. We sort of see the price going up, the volume going down. So that's a bit of a negative sign there. It's sort of like you just fewer and fewer people are participating as the stock goes up. So probably tells you it's running out of half there. So nothing wrong with the trend, but yeah, just probably running out half there. 3DP, well, it's sort of interesting there, just because it's a sort of smaller name. It's a bit of an ugly chart here, but has broken above the swing high here. Has been some pretty good volume off the load here. This has been pretty tight here so far, Chris. This has been really only had the 1 day selling here, and then 1, 2, 3 here. So too small for me. I don't like trading stocks under 30 cents, but not the worst looking chart there. I'm guessing that looks okay to me. Bio. This one I sort of thought actually just starting to see a few signs of distribution for this one. So again, it's had a pretty strong run here. Just seeing this sort of pretty heavy volume at the top here, and then definitely saw a second pretty heavy day volume up there. So it's like, oh, okay, it's like there's two there. Bit of a bounce there. Reaction volume's a bit, probably half as well. So just probably got to watch this one here now. Sort of, we've just got a bit more selling taking place in here than you normally see. Because didn't see too much selling in here, or any of these sort of moves here. But now we're starting to see some sort of sizable selling take place there. So just got to be careful there. So just watch out with these stocks that are extended here and maybe run there. If you see that increase in volume, then just watch that there. WTM's had a nice big move here, so in a bit of a tightening price action. This is a bit of a watch here to see whether it can tighten up. FAL, thought this was interesting, Chris. This is the one that there's two stocks I was watching here. This is sort of one of the smaller ones, just because it's sort of just around that 30-cent mark. It's my little criteria there, but I didn't trade this there. It's probably just as well, because I probably would have been looking for this to buy the B break here, which would have been a move above 28 cents. And then it did break here, and then it whacked the next day, a bit of a shakeout down to 23.5. And then I think if I'd bought the 28, I probably would have had a stock tighter than 23.5. And then the next day, outside day, it's straight back up again, and then it's gone here. So pretty good volume as well. So this doesn't look too bad here. But I did like that big move on big volume, this contraction there. And the whole thing did tighten up there, but just had that little shakeout day. Didn't break that's the thing I've noticed when they sort of smaller names there, they do flash around a bit. They can come back and move at a big percentage moves. So that's why you got to trade them a bit smaller. But if you can give yourself enough room, probably to the last swing low, it does that. Just notice I feel those smaller names there. If they're they're going to keep going higher there. They can swing around, but they rarely should break a swing low. They should just sort of keep building high lows, high lows. So it might come back deep, but the good ones, they shouldn't break above here. So you can see it just hasn't sort of broken a swing up, swing low here. So that's it's okay there. But that's the risk of trading the small ones here. They do move around a bit. So that's why I sort of suggest being a bit smaller there. I think SMN was sort of one that we talked about previously there, just a bit of a change of character. A few little volume spikes here, breaking above this sort of high here as well. Had a little tight little pullback in there, look very little selling there. It's a little small, but we had some okay volume off the low here and on this drive here. Just nice and tight pullback there. And then we've gone again here. So interesting one here. It's just a little, not the easiest one to trade, what I saw there. NDR, this has been pretty strong actually so far. So a bit light to the trade, Chris, as well. But so far all the pullbacks are nice and tight here. This was what Robert Kalamagi is talking about. Price action moves up freely, and then where it pulls back a nice and tight, and it struggles to go down. Those are sort of good signs here. So has tipped over a little bit heavier today. This will probably be the biggest correction of the move so far. So that's probably a slight negative. Today, just that cup and handle there. This is the just thought it's important to highlight these sort of cup and handles there, Chris, because it's sort of like we see them and we point them out. But then people, you're always scared to trade these when they sort of break out because they're new highs. So when you're looking at the chart here without this price action, you are now buying the stock. You're going to be paying the highest that anyone's ever paid for the stock. That's hard mentally to get your head around that. But we know when we sort of see that tight price action under the high and then push through a good volume, normally means we sort of kick on. So it's a good lesson just to sort of keep looking for this pattern there, but also monitor what happens post pattern as well. So
just before you change on that one, how much confidence would you take from that higher volume at the end of May as it's running up the side of the cup before it creates the handle? So if you're looking for a cup and handle, this is probably a decent example. You said that sometimes they do surpass the high of the left side of the cup, and which it has done, and it did it with a bit of volume when it ran up the right side of the cup. Yeah,
even like just looking back there, that's good volume all the way through that. So that's pretty solid there. Even go back to that. So and then through here, I mean, there's only that one day here, but it's very, very light. The traded through here the whole period, and then we start to see a bit of volume. First volume day, another volume day there, a couple of big volume days in there. Okay, and then the whole thing tightens up here. No selling here after it's had a bit of a jump again. Okay, that's a good sign. And then start to see a few, okay volume days in here. Does take to the break day to actually sort of show its hand a bit there, but that's a pretty good sign there, really. So just seeing that strong stream of volume on the way up, seeing the volume dry up again and then start to come in again. It doesn't need to be, just needs to sort of match this sort of volume. It's nice if it's heavier, but sometimes the second wave doesn't need to be as heavy as the first wave. It just needs to be constructed as well. So that volume can come in late, Chris, as we know as well. Once it sort of pierces through, that's when the volume often sort of come in there. It's just a good lesson to sort of to follow those too. Once they've done those breaks too, you just don't want to. That's probably the hardest thing to buy is your cup and handle, 52-week new highs and stuff there, because you are looking at a chart and you're basically buying at the top right corner, but there's no price action above you. So mentally, our brains don't like that. We don't like to basically sort of be the person who's paid the highest price for the year.
We prefer the discounts, like we want 50% off.
Be buying a year earlier down at the bottom on the chart because we're just seeing what's in front of us. So brains are wired just to think, I don't want to buy that. That's the high, but that may be the low for the next 12 months. So we just don't know. So, but that's the beauty of that sort of setup there. OSL sort of one that I was surprised was on the list. Actually, it's sort of stock that I do follow a bit. I actually sort of managed to sort of exit out of some of this and some options as well. But it is interesting. There's a bit of volume coming in there. Noticed Peter Hall has got on the register there on the last sort of placement there. So he's going to be a reasonable stakeholder. So Peter Hall, sort of old Hunter Hall.
Oh, yes.
Yes, pretty well known portfolio manager. He was a big investor in Certex, which is similar sort of stock as well. So pretty interesting actually that he's on the register there as well. So had a bit of a run here now. Might face a bit of a walk here, maybe up at 1 here. But yeah, it's a bit small, and it's definitely got some overhead here. It's got a lot of losers in front of it here, but this volume definitely sort of standing out there. So yeah, just one to keep an eye on there. It's a bit small for me. I probably I'm used to sort of bounce here to probably sell some into it. But yeah, just probably just one to watch here maybe over the coming months. CU6 has obviously been one of the leaders there, Chris, as well. Still hanging tough here so far. Hasn't shown too much weakness there. Got a little bit of a shooting star up here on the chart pattern wise. Had a couple of days there, but still had any negative follow through there. A lot of people do like this company there, but to me it looks a little long in the tooth there, so it's definitely got some risk up here. But probably just one to sort of watch there. I prefer to sort of see a better consolidation there. SPZ, yeah, been building quite nicely this one there. Sort of smart parking, sort of smaller name. Just even though it's sort of down today, the volume's pretty small here. So yeah, probably just one to sort of keep an eye on, just because it has been building quite nicely. STP, I was watching this one the other week there. Just one of the viewers actually plotted this out there. There was a little bit of VCP in Hickories. Was sitting below the 50, but it did break out. The VCP did break out of, above the 50. And there was okay volume in there as well. So you had a pullback there. So it's interesting there looking at, we were talking earlier about some of these momentum names. This is one thing I sort of learned this year, that some of the momentum names, the strongest names there, when they do have a bit of a breather, oftentimes, one thing I sort of noticed is that a lot of them will sort of do this like A, B, C, back to the 50, and sometimes they go just below, sort of just above, or sometimes they break below it. But I've noticed that a lot of them can turn on those ABCs and then go again. So always sort of worth, looking at the strongest names and waiting for them to have those sort of breathers there. So definitely watching for like the false break here, looking for that, that little sort of more, I guess more what I sort of call a square, a sort of pullback. Like sometimes you get a pullback there. Like see how this is quite deep here. It's starting to move down here. I prefer sort of the square sort of pullback there. Kind of come back here and maybe just go slightly lower there. Just some of those ones are sort of a better setup. But I've noticed a lot of the leading names do that setup there. So yeah, I noticed a few guys who would have been trading this VCP will be pretty happy about the little gap up here. So there's one instance there where a leading name is sort of pull back but then tighten up again, VCP, and then start to move up again. So would have been a good little signal there. E-Road is sort of one that I mentioned a few times in the past there. I just couldn't trade this one just because it was a little bit too thin. Did like the way it was setting up here technically. A little loose just because couldn't trade it big there just because there wasn't too much liquidity in the market there, but picking along the cake here at the moment. BNO2 is sort of one that's been running for a while. It's been on the list for a long time, actually, Chris. It's been nice and sort of steady here, really. So it's again probably just one to keep an eye on there. Wait for consolidation there. Just make sure we're not sort of seeing any selling coming in there. So still seeing some pretty heavy days up at the top end here. So definitely still worth watching there. That's it for the
cool. Quarterly momentum leaders.
Yeah. So there's a bit going on there. Probably a few lessons in there. Just got to keep those sort of stronger names on the list as well, because we see them, they look extended there, but as we're sort of saying there, a lot of them just have those little consolidation pauses and then go again. So can't really sort of, I made the mistake a few times this year of taking some of the strong names off my list and not coming back and looking at them. When I go back and look at it, gee, this just had a little square pull back, hit the 50 and gone. It's like, well, I've done some sort of little consolidation there, square consolidation as well, maybe used up a lot of time there. Sometimes they do like a third, like it could be an A, B, C, D, E, but it can be square in nature. So it basically doesn't go down hard. It's more of a square, a sort of a consolidation. So when they sort of consolidate in a sideways manner, that's better than seeing them consolidate in a deeper manner, because that just means they're holding up, struggling to go down. So that's the type of thing you're probably going to be watching for.
Well, that's a really helpful insight to know that when the market's powering on, you're not just crossing them off your list immediately. You're looking for those pullbacks, whether it's an ABC, an ABC, D, E, but in a square consolidation or a tight congestion like some of the smaller caps you've shown, or possibly some of the cup and handles. They would have been momentum leaders briefly when they run back up, and then when they run up the side of the cup and they're just about to form the handle, they're going to stop the momentum, but they'll ease off. And that may be where they show up in the launchpad once again. So you've been through the launchpad list. These are normally they're companies that are actually compressing, but with the market breaking out as it has been, there's definitely a lot of momentum still in this launchpad list because everything's been running.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at this list, are you finding names to add, or what's coming out in this week's list for you at the launchpad?
Yeah, so there's been there's been a lot of property, like we've seen a few property trusts bounce here in the last week or two, and had a pretty impulsive bounce. There's a few property stocks in here as well. So we're talking about Reece and Reliance, which is sort of plumbing. Charter Halls in there, Mars Group was another builder. So there's definitely a few building types in there, construction names in there. So they've had a bit of a bounce here as well. So they haven't really, some of them have come off sort of some pretty deep lows there. A few Fibonacci levels. We'll talk about some of the fibs there. Market coming back to sort of some key fibs there. I noticed that that Reliance there had come back to the 50% correction on the weekly, and that has bounced pretty strongly from that level. So definitely noticing some of that going on, but it's hard to trade, just bouncing up a fib, because I think they can go straight through it. So you need to see some sort of evidence there, or some little VCP. It's a tough one there. We're sort of talking about it. Because we've got a pretty volatile market here at the moment. It's not a market where you're sort of building slowly all the time and then running. It tends to be sort of coming off pretty hard, bouncing pretty hard and coming off, so a bit of a V-shaped orientated market there. So how do you sort of adjust to that? I mean, look for some of those false breaks, but yeah, it doesn't sort of not really giving you sort of like a 0, 1, 2, 3, like a basing pattern, not giving you sort of too many, maybe, too many VCPs, not too many sitting, like we are seeing a few VCPs, but a lot of them are sitting out of the 50 as well. So do you sort of tweak a little bit to move towards that? It's, it's sort of, you're sort of compromising your own sort of trading systems here. So me personally, I'll sort of, make some sort of slight adjustments. I just don't like to move too far away from what I've sort of designed and what I've sort of like my rules there, because then you sort of start moving too much, you start breaking rules again, and you start your trades, and just definitely a certain dynamic in the market here at the moment there, which is a little volatile, but it is more aligned, as you mentioned there, with that sort of 40s and 70s style high inflationary market there, where you do get the volatile swings, big move back and forth there. So trading ranges and stuff there. So it is sort of, I guess it's sort of that market sort of gives me a little bit of confidence that we're not going to get, the stocks are moving around a bit, so it's a bit hard to move, but they will sort of come back again as well. So I'm just finding they're probably overshooting to them. I mean, just look at, it's probably not a good example, but when ASX, I thought it was a bit harshly dealt with on that fall here. It sort of gave its guidance which was already within the guidance, but with the lower end of guidance, and the thing got crucified. But then look, the stock's gone from like 57 here up to 65 there in a month. That's the type of market we're in at the moment. We're sort of definitely seeing some big swings up and down, volatility there. So just got to keep that in mind with your trading there. Definitely sort of seeing that type of behaviour there. but I say that ABH is the one that I did actually notice this one there. So I sort of saw this peel back here, and I noticed this had like this AB. I thought, oh, this might actually sort of set up like a little bit of an inverse head and shoulders here, Chris, as well.
Yep.
Just because there's sort of been pretty heavy volume in there. Did have a pretty good update in here, but then the whole thing just came back, and it actually ended up making a false break. So, yeah, I thought once it sort of didn't hold here, I sort of went off my radar a little bit there. And even in here, like this thing's struggling to bounce here, but all it's gone down, made a slight new low, and then now we've had a little bit of a bounce and move here. So we are seeing some of those biotech names move here. So key thing is there, we do have a bit of a pulse break. We've had an impulsive rally, so make a volume there now. So now you're just probably just going to watch and see if we can get some sort of consolidation here. But you want to see something tight rather than something deep like this, So just got to be watching for the right setups here. STP was the one we mentioned there. It's had a nice little jump there. James Hardy's had a nice bounce off the low. So again, what are those sort of building names? So this is interesting here because you look. I was watching the sort of sideways orientation moves. There's been quite a few of these, Chris. They're going building. I thought, maybe this might do a little, basing 0, 1, 2, 3. But the thing of these patterns is I don't really like to see something which just sort of come off pretty hard like this, and then build a base there. It's sort of like particularly when it goes more sort of sideways orientated, that normally ends up breaking down here. So it was interesting there that we had the one little spring here, the one little false break, and then a reversal there. That would have been a probably good little signal there to clean out there. So I noticed that Nanosonics dropped this there last week too. See how that's, again, this is just a big choppy sideways orientation. Sometimes you don't get sort of followed through from those, and they often end up having that, didn't go to a new low here, this one, but went pretty close. Just that little shakeout and sort of that. So that's the thing to watch out with those sort of sideways orientated moves, is that there can be a little bit of a shakeout there. So probably want to watch those and see what happens there. Off topic here, but the HP has gone to a new.
Yeah, I saw it this morning.
Yeah, so it's interesting to watch this here now. It's obviously a bit negative, but in this market here, it hasn't been so negative. It's such a whippy market, range-bound market, sort of. So in a trending market there, breaking to a new low would be pretty bearish here, but we've just seen a lot of false breaks here recently, so definitely one to be watching there for that potential false break there. IWC is another one that's,
that's space.
Yeah, it's come back to that's basically 50% of the range. That's a big Fibonacci level there. So again, it's hard to buy that there. I mean, maybe the whole thing tightened up here and first day up here, but not a classic sort of, high probability signal. So yeah, but we have had some good volume here now. So to me, this goes on the watch list, because maybe we've had a bit of a break and maybe it can come back and consolidate and start to build here, VCP or something, So that's good volume, good signs here out of this low here, which has had a pretty deep low here. So just going to put this on the radar here now and watch these sort of stocks and see if they can sort of build sort of something there as well. So that looked pretty good. Charter Hall as well, so had a pretty good bounce there. Pretty impulsive there. Got a bit of selling last few days. It's going to obviously come back in the range. You can't sort of chase these ones here. So interesting just to sort of see whether it can hold. PolyNovo was sort of one that I quite liked here, Chris. Had that little sort of sell on top of that previous little high there, but bit of a cup and handle in here, and then sort of look pretty good, but has sort of come back here. So I did stop myself out here for a tiny gain here this morning, but I thought this was looking pretty good. It might reset up here, but for me personally, I just don't like to sort of see them, once they sort of explode here, they shouldn't really sort of break 2 days back under, so I usually, that was sort of my sort of stock was sort of under this low here. I just feel like to see those ranges broken here. So no damage really done. Take home a couple $100. I'm in cash on the sidelines here, just waiting for the signals again. But if I see that pattern over and over again, I would take it 9 times out of 10. So that's all we can do as traders is follow our process there. There's some rules there. There's another one too, that Reese, which is this is another one of the building names. Again, some pretty good volume to Chris coming off this low here. What's most impressive about this is that see how square this correction is in the range here. This is pretty much a bit of a sideways orientation there. So going up pretty impulsively. I know it's going on a new high here, but this has sort of stayed up, stayed with it. It hasn't come back too far. Still a lot of space between the last high and this low here. So leaves the trend in a fairly strong position there. Just interesting here that this thing's we're already back here above the 50 pretty quickly. We're not far from the high as well. This is like, the thing about the strongest name is that, when the market's sort of weak and they're sort of bouncing up, they're up near the highs, well, the market's sort of showing some weakness. That's a really good sign. So that is definitely a stock to keep an eye on here, actually, because that is showing some strength. And again, just in that sort of sector there. Thought Tyro is pretty interesting there. Just good bounce off the low here, tightening up here. Maybe we'll get a little VCP. So just one to watch. CCP was another one there. One of those possibly could be building here. I'd like to see a bit more here, Chris, as well, just because the trend is still pretty down here. So it's like it's, just lower high, lower high, lower high, all the way down here. So starting to see maybe signs of a bit of a base here. I think this time up here, time down is about the same. So it hasn't gone to a new low in the same amount of time as the bounce there. So that's positive. Means it might be able to sort of build here. But probably just need to sort of be a bit more, been a little messy here so far. So like, I thought we might have had a 0, 1, 2, 3 in here, but it actually went slightly lower here. So we're sort of running at a 0 and a 1 here so far. So definitely one that I've got on my list there, because I think it is a bit of an A-grade stock here. A well-managed sort of company, leader in its field, just been a bit of a tough space because, all the free money being handed out there. There's not too many, but bad debts are starting to build here. The debt books will sort of build again. This business will probably turn a corner eventually here. So the cycle could be about to change for them in a positive manner, but it probably needs to build a bit more. So again, this is another one, just goes on the watch list for me, just because I think it's an interesting sector. A bit like the builders, it's shown a little bit of volume there. Maybe not as strong as some of the builders' names, but sort of potentially sort of building tech. MGH is another one that's pretty interesting as well. This was a bit of a leader there last year, Chris, as well. It was one of the names that was on the list for quite a while, but had a pretty good run. So it is sort of like a high growth sort of company there. Metrics are been pretty robust. But again, this has had a bit of a correction here now. Big ABC on it here, but used up a lot of time here. It's just sort of corrected though. I mean, that's really, if you look at this this is a bit of a sideways orientated correction here. Bit of a VCP in here at the end, and just starting to poke its head through here. So some okay signs there for this one. This is definitely one that does interest me there, just because it's had some pretty strong metrics there, and that this is really still sitting on top of the previous high as well. So nothing too negative with that trend. That's just a sideways sort of cool off as well. So again, that's sort of showing relative strength really. So the only other one that I did see, Chris, which was on the list, mate, because it's probably a new name, was IPO, which was so just hasn't been too many IPOs in the last year. Sort of, I do look at the list there. It's just pretty barren list there. But I noticed that this one has come back sort of congested there. There's our sort of must have been a 156 IPO site there. So come on a bit hot, as they often do, then they sort of fade. The whole thing did sort of coil up here, it tightened up here. So there are some, if you look at sort of lifestyle trader and stuff there, they do look at a lot of the, I know sort of Dan Zanger trades a lot of the IPOs as well, but he looks at them to sort of cool off and sort of start to build, and looks for sort of, obviously some with the sort of stronger metrics, but just interesting there. If you sort of watch this one here, the whole thing did tighten up here, a little VCP. and then it did sort of break through here. So you still can get some opportunities there from some of those IPOs. I think 988. So this is a relatively new name as well.
That's like top the momentum list at the moment.
So that's another IPO. So sort of they do come on hot. I think there's the issue price there, 20 cents, comes on hot, which is fade, and then then they start to build here. Something comes and then they go. So it's definitely worth keeping a list, keeping an eye on. The last 1 or 2 years, sort of the stocks there, just because they can go through that, have that early fade, and then they start moving. And so you can see, like, some of the moves are pretty spectacular there. I mean, that's gone from 14.5 cents here up to $1 there. So it's can be moved, can be pretty interesting there. So it's just worth keeping an eye on some of those.
Well, that's definitely the market leader right now, I-88, and as you've said for some time, it's worth keeping. And there's a whole sort of playbook that you've found and researched of different ways that these IPOs can trade when they hit the market. But in your experience, that can edge out over 6 months, 12, 18, 24? How long can those?
Yeah, they can go. They can be a bit of a 2 year. Sometimes they can be 18 months there. But I noticed that, like, even Facebook, Google, and Microsoft, a lot of those bigger names there, they came on pretty hot and then tended to fade for a while. And even those sort of stronger names that didn't fade too much, at least sort of faded for maybe at least a few months. So it'll be interesting actually to watch, GYG here as well, because obviously that's come on a bit hot. Everyone thought it was overpriced there. So it'll be interesting to see whether that comes back to the issue price or not. Potentially it could. But yeah, it's definitely one to sort of keep an eye on. So, but yeah, there's just not a big list there, Chris. Looking at the 2024 IPOs, it's a very small list. So, we're sort of hoping that maybe GYG and the market's being pretty robust there. Maybe we'll get some new companies come to market there, because that's where often some of the biggest winners do come from, some of the newer names. So, but we should be looking at IPOs in 23, IPOs 24, maybe 22. It's probably getting a bit late for those, but maybe some of the second half of 22. Some of them, can still be sort of coming through there. I think one Spartan isn't that old, so I think this might have been the refresh here in March 23. So refresh, but what's the new asset rolled in there basically. So
So yeah, there's different ways to trade the market. If the momentum's not running, you've got other ways that you're looking at it and understanding where the leaders can come from. So
that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Well, the good overlay is that, as you mentioned in this week, we've had whipsawing. Even though the market's at its highs, you've been noticing that the whipsawing's been happening within the market leaders or within the market itself. So you said property stocks were sort of staying low and then whipping higher. And we'll put on the screen to the right-hand side there your research on the 40s and 70s, where you analysed what the market leaders are, the sectors, as well as the behaviours of them. So put that screen on the right, and we'll say thank you very much, Gary Glover from Novus Capital.
Thanks, Chris.